Everyone, welcome to How Michael Lady She podcast. I'm your host, Lady She. So, on today, I just want to talk to you guys a little bit about relationships. One of the things I've been noticing uh, just with 2022 and I guess all the years of my life is how important and how detrimental relationships are to us as individuals. With so much going on in the world, we have to a lot of times just be real with, our present state. We live in a world where there's a lot of evil, where there's a lot of bad things happening, where there's a lot of things happening that are confusing, where there are a lot of things happening that we as so-called regular people don't really have control over a lot of things. But one of the things we do have control over is our relationships. And when I'm saying that, I'm not just speaking about marriage or, you know, how do I say, the spouses, I'm not just talking about that. I'm speaking about relationships as a whole, as in your relationships with your family, with your parents, your relationship with your children, your relationship with your coworkers, your if you go to church, a mosque, or whatever, those who you are connected to in reference to spirituality. All of these relationships shape and mold who you are. And a lot of times we look back on, just taking, for example, those who have been in relationships and had significant others. We look back and you'll see a lot of stuff on social media speaking about exes and now, I'm free. They saying F and F and, whatever, they saying little comments and you've seen people go viral speaking about, the things they went through with their, in their relationships and how they're so glad they're out of it. But if you pay attention, a lot of them sat in it for a while. You see nowadays we're speaking about red flags and what to pay attention to and all these different things. And you see people go viral on TikTok speaking about, if the ex calls them, they'll rather die, all kind of, dramatic things. But it's, and to me, I've learned that in every joke, there's some truth. So bottom line is our relationships do, create and they affect us and not just our past but our present as well and our future. So for example, I think I brought up Ciara and Russell Wilson before some time ago, and I'll use them for an example. You can see the difference in who Ciara is today than who she was when she was with Future. And let me elaborate. I'm not saying Future is a bad person. He's just a different type of guy than Russell Wilson is. I hope his last name is Wilson. I believe it is. So with that, your surroundings and the people you're attached to, they affect you. So when if you pay attention, when Ciara was with Future, she wore more black. She looked totally different. How she spoke was different. Even the music was different. And now that she's with Russell, she seems very soft. Not calling him soft, but just saying there's an energy that exudes from her because she's with a different type of person. And I've spoken about this before in reference to men and women. I feel that both parties want to feel safe in their relationships. And when I say safe, I don't just mean physicalities. I don't just mean like if, you're walking down the street, the guy's making sure he's on the right, he's on the outside walking with you. So if a car comes up, he gets it first. Not just that. I mean safe with your heart. I mean, men also want to feel the same thing with women. They want to feel that, okay, I'm with this person. I should feel free to give them my heart, to have different conversations, and to go to next levels and be looking at my future with this person. Same thing with women. Women want to feel that they are dealing with someone who's being truthful. They are dealing with someone who's going to tell them when they're not okay. They're dealing with someone they can share their secrets with. They can share, different avenues of their life. They can share different maybe they want to go back to school, maybe they have different ideas they want to do and they want to have support. So that is also a safety thing when it comes to relationships. But we also have relationships when it comes to our platonic friendships and things of that nature. One of the things I'm seeing a lot is people are starting to see how they've ignored for years certain things and certain traits that the friendships that they thought were real, they were ignoring certain signs about them. A lot of people are realizing that some of the people that they entertained for years weren't really healthy for them at all. A lot of them realizing, I feel like in 2022, where we're getting more in tune with things. I don't know. I don't want to say it's just a pandemic. I really honestly feel that it's God, that He's been speaking even before the pandemic, that He was going to start to reveal. So with that, people are starting to really see how their growth is affected by their relationships. So when you start to see that people you've been friends with for years, every time you want to do something new or you go through some changes, there's something negative said. Or, when you're saying that you're gonna stop doing something and you're gonna try something new, there's always some type of energy where it's like you can't be serious. We have to be careful of people that we take advice from, especially those who seem to be settled. Let me tell you the difference between being settled and being content. You can be content in your life if you realize that God is answering your prayers. If you realize that all the things that you prayed for years before, you are now living in those things. It doesn't mean stop moving up. It doesn't mean stop, having desires for more or progressing. But you can just be like, yo, I'm good right now. But I'm maybe, with such and such time, I'll do A, B, and C, but you're still content. Settling is when you're just like, I can't do no better than this. Um, this is it. I've had people who've been married for years say, well, he ain't going nowhere and I ain't going nowhere. It is what it is. And that's not the response you want to take from someone who you're asking advice about relationship, and that's their response. Like, you want to be able to be having conversation with people who can be real with you and say, listen, marriage is work, relationships is work, being a parent is work. We're not going to dot every I and cross every T when it comes to being a parent, because we weren't raised by perfect people. God is the only perfect being. So even with relationships, we have to understand that once you say that this is someone you want to be connected to, you have to understand you are two imperfect beings trying to make things work, whether it's platonic or not. You all have something, flaws, you have baggage, you have certain things. You may even have unprocessed hurt that you don't know about until some type of trigger happens within that friendship. So we want to be mindful of the people that we connect to, especially in 2022. I feel that 2022 is a year where you can be so free in who you are because of the decision that you are making connected to relationships. I keep seeing things. I'm one of those people that, I'm constantly reading, I'm watching, and I don't have to say much, I don't have to post much or anything like that, but I'm always listening and watching, and I'm seeing a lot of people understand and are grabbing a hold that how vital relationships are to your future, to your present, to your mental well-being, to your self-care. Because some of I work with somebody who told me she hasn't been to the doctor in 6 years. We have good medical, but you're not going to the doctor, so you don't even know what's going on in your body. You don't even know that you may be acting cantankerous because you may have mucus or something going on with internally, and you just respond in a certain way because you're hormonal. You need to check in and take your self-care serious. But if you're surrounded by other women or other men who you see taking care of themselves, making sure they're well groomed, making sure they look nice, making sure they smell good, making sure they get checkups every year, you'll fall into place with that same kind of energy. But if you're not, you're like, I'm good, I ain't been to the doctor in 6 years, and you're taking it like it's normal. That's not really normal. So we want to be mindful of our relationships, our friendships, the people we connect to. I hear people also say stuff like, oh, my A1 since day one. Sometimes your A1 is toxic. Sometimes your A1 has gotten you in trouble for years, and you become that person now. You become that enabler. You become that person that's just like, well, this is how they are. And it's not going to take you to the next level in your life. It's not going to take you to the next level in where you're trying to go, because you're constantly getting into stuff because of your A1 is your day one. We got to make better decisions for ourselves. So pay attention to even relationships connected to that. When it comes to the workplace, listen, you work in a toxic environment. If you talking to Sister Sue, and she can't wait to tell you about KK's business or Keisha's business when they walk out the door, does that seem like a good idea to be telling her your personal business, or for you to be telling him your personal business? Friendships, relationships. This is your time in 2022 to make decisions that are best for you. And that is about your surroundings, the people you spend time with, the people that you take advice from, the people that you pour advice into. You have the right to be selective when it comes to relationships. Now, when it comes to your children, a lot of times I feel self evaluation is so important as a parent. You have to be able to see your flaws. You have to be able to see certain things that you felt you didn't like that went on with your parents when you were a child, and see if you're reflecting those same exact things. Or you need to see when you're making a decision about your children, is it because you haven't dealt with certain things from your childhood? So now you're overly doing things because you're like, well, when I was a kid, my mama made me get up at 3 in the morning sometimes when she was drinking or when she was upset just to make her food or just to clean the dish or whatever it can be. And now you don't got your kids having no chores. That's not going to help the beloved. Because when they go to college or when they go to live on their own, nobody dealing with that nasty stuff. You still have to be teaching certain things, as a parent. So, even with those type of relationships. So 2022, it is your time. Be mindful of those you connect to. Be mindful of those friendships. Be mindful of those relationships. 2022 for me, I've been doing like a friendship meter, like a friendship detector. And what I mean by that is this: you start to assess and see if there's certain people when you speak to them or when you know that you're going to be encountering them, do you get anxiety? Do you get anxiety, like actual anxiety? Is it a thing where you're realizing that you have friendships that are very, very one-sided, where you're constantly pointing into them or you're telling them your truth and you're speaking on your stuff? They got plenty to say about your stuff. But when it comes to you ask, oh, what's going on with you, girl? They mute. Mm-mm. Red flags, as they say. When it comes to, even some of us have parents who are still alive and we're dealing with siblings and growing up where the parent made it very obvious which child they liked over the other. Do we connect with our siblings and we constantly make them feel some type of way because they were the so-called favorite? Do we have healthy relationships with our siblings? Do we have healthy relationships with our family based off of our own encounters and not what's been said about them? Ooh. Maybe I'm going to touch on that one, but I'm just saying 2022 is about your mental state, your mindset, your mental health, your self-care. So be mindful of the friendships. Be mindful of those connections that you create. Be mindful of those who you've been connected to for years. And you convince yourself that it's healthy, it's fine, it's okay. 2022 is your time. So make great decisions for yourself.